Hello there, and welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Meyers. We're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues. And boy, the guy we got on the show today, he's doing something really interesting. You know, a lot of people wanting to get into show business.
They do, and
he's doing it.
He fits both of these interesting people and topical issues. He's got them all. Matt Payne from Prairie Surf Media is going to be talking to us in a few minutes, and we were excited to do the show. You, as you oftentimes do, suggested a show we might do, and this was it. And I appreciate your suggestions. Keep them coming, because my mind is empty otherwise.
Matt and his group have turned the former convention center in downtown Oklahoma City into a movie studio. And as bizarre as that sounds, he's done it. And so we're going to talk to Matt today about what he's accomplished so far and what he hopes to accomplish next. It's coming up today on The Verdict.
Right now, 6 feet can feel like a long ways away. But from 6 feet, we can still smile at each other. From our doorways and our stairways, from opposite sides of the street and opposite sides of the country. Through fear and frustrations, we can remind each other that we are still here for each other. Because we can still smile at each other. And we're not going anywhere.
Children are just fun. They're exciting. The way they look at the world, kids explore. Every time they're getting off an elevator or walking into a room, they look at it in a different light than we do. And I actually get to see that and interact with them. It's so fulfilling. I am Paula Van Buskirk. I am Chief of Dental Services of the Chickasaw Nation. I'm a pediatric dentist, and I am Chickasaw. When I look in their eyes, it always makes me think that I might be working on the next pediatric dentist that'll take my place, or I could be working on the next legislator, or even the governor. When you think about children, that's what you're thinking about. What are they going to be, and how are you going to impact their lives? It's just an amazing feeling to get up every morning and to be inspired what the day's going to bring.
See more stories about the Chickasaw people at profilesofanation.com.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Meyers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Well, as we indicated in the open, our guest today is Matt Payne, co-chairman and co-CEO of Prairie Surf Media. Matt is an Oklahoman, originally graduated from Bishop McGinnis High School, University of Oklahoma in the Film and Video School. Then went out to L.A. and was out in L.A. about 15 years before returning in 2015 to Oklahoma City to do his magic here. He is, as I said, the co-founder and co-CEO of Prairie Surf Media. He is an Emmy-nominated filmmaker. He is a writer and the producer of film productions. He's produced documentaries for Griffin Communication and for OETA Foundation. And he is taught at Oklahoma City University in subject related to filmmaking. Matt this is his first visit with us, but we're really pleased to have you, Matt. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's a big honor to be here. I'm excited to share a little bit about what we're doing.
Prairie Surf Media. How'd you come up with the name? And when you started, did you know it was going to turn out like this?
No. To answer your first question, Prairie Surf Media. When Rachel Cannon and I first sat down and started talking about doing something in film, she had I moved back to California in the year 2015. Rachel moved back in 2018. When she moved back, we sat down and we thought, we should try and do something in the film space. And so we had coffee on crew at the Nichols Hills Plaza, and she and I started, it started off with like, maybe we could write a screenplay together. And by the end of Coffee, we sort of decided that we were going to try and figure out how to build sound stages in Oklahoma and change film forever. And so here we are a year and a half later at a very exciting time in Oklahoma film. The name, to your question, it came because I liked the idea of energy moving from the coast, the waves of the ocean. That was what I loved about California, but that energy moving across to the prairie, to the center of the country. So Prairie Surf Media is sort of a combination of California and Oklahoma. That was the best way we could think about it.
And when did the idea of using the former convention center as kind of a headquarters, when did that come up? And did you have backup plans, or did you have other ideas before that?
Yeah, so there are three things that really are necessary to make film work. So film, for the longest time, Atlanta is a film hub. New Mexico is a film hub, and all the places that are film hubs, people are leaving Los Angeles looking for lower cost cities to do business. That's what we're trying to capture. And all the cities that are doing it successfully have three things in common: workforce, they have an incentive in place, and they have infrastructure. And what infrastructure means is sound stages, and what sound stages are basically 20,000 square foot rooms with high ceilings, with adjacent office space and parking and some kind of sawmill. In the most fundamental form, that's what we were looking for. So we thought, that it would be easier to convert something than to build it. So Rachel and I, we scoured Oklahoma City looking at every warehouse, every old building that we could find, to see, like, would this work? And we needed to find something that matched the $8 million cap that existed, the rebate that was in place. And really, we'd almost run out of options. And on March 12th, right before the pandemic hit, a friend of ours said, "Have you looked at the Cox Convention Center?" And we were like, the place downtown? And first we kind of scratched our head, and then we walked into the facility and looked around, and there's this aha moment of wow, this really is it. Mayor Holt, when he was when we were putting up our sign, we had a little ribbon cutting, and he said, the thing about Prairie Surf, who knew we had a movie studio here? The last 20 years, we'd just been using it for the wrong thing, and he was exactly right. The facility's perfect and has required very little from us to get it up and running.
Well, what's your plan for the use of that space? How do you go about having a soundstage space available to you under lease and then getting something to put in it?
There were a lot of moving parts in this for us, getting a facility. We believe, so we spent a lot of time, my partner kind of spent a ton of time at the Capitol lobbying for to increase our incentive. We had an incentive that existed at $8 million, but we knew we needed more. But what we really wanted to show was that if we had a facility ready to go, that we would be ready to receive production. So when we looked at this facility, and we decided that we would approach the city about getting into it through the lens of economic development, they were excited. This is a tremendous opportunity. There are very few situations in the film space where such a facility is so turnkey. So we were able to convince the city to let us do this, and then we took that partnership with the city to the state and said, hey, we believe that now if we get an incentive in place, we can attract people. What we also did was, in the process of kind of researching and developing this idea, despite the pandemic, we brought people here to look at the space. So we had executives from studio management companies like Cinelease here. We had the former president of Warner Brothers Studio, who launched The Hangover and the Batman franchise and Harry Potter. We had him and his team come and look at the facility. We had Oklahomans that work in the film industry, like Bill Johnson, who's married to Junie Lowry Johnson. he's a UPM, and he came and looked at the facility. We had a lot of people tell us we believe this could work, and we took all of that energy, and we're able to get a bill passed with an incentive, a $30 million incentive that now works. So to your next question is what you're seeing in media is there's just an explosion of content. So you've got, the way that I always talk about it is it used to be that one household, the family would watch 2 to 3 shows a night. And now, because of iPads and everything else and all the streaming platforms, you have a family of 4. All 4 people are watching 4 to 5 shows per night. So you have this increase in content. But the thing is that the cost needs to come down to get these things made. And sound stages are how you keep costs down. So once we have a facility and we have an incentive, I was just right before this, I was on a phone with an executive from Disney. They're looking for places to film because there's literally a soundstage shortage globally. So what we hope to do is take advantage of that now that we have all the right material.
I suspect there's people around who want to just hand you a script and say, hey, can you help me get this movie produced? Or, or they have some other idea. What role do you feel like Prairie Surf can play in the grand scheme of things? What direction do you give people who come up with an idea that they want to get in the movies, or they have a project they want to pursue? And you're providing one aspect of that, but it's certainly not a turnkey for getting a motion picture developed.
No, and to give you a little bit of my background, so I'm a writer first. So stories is what drives me. It always has been, and it's what drives my partner, Rachel, as well. So I am thrilled about the idea of ultimately getting into content. I had the good fortune of teaching screenwriting at Oklahoma City University, and my greatest passion is frankly helping Oklahoma writers get better at their craft so that we can do exactly what you're talking about, which is make Oklahoma, ultimately make Oklahoma-based films. What we need right now, though, for us, the way that we thought about it was we could continue to try to make small films and to struggle in doing so, struggle to raise the money, struggle to find the actors, struggle to find the equipment, and maybe make something that's good enough to sell. The way that we thought about it was, let's get more foundational. Like, let's build an actual foundation so that as the next generation of Oklahoma storytellers start thinking about making films, they're able to make they're able to make better films. They're able to make them affordably, and they're able to do them in Oklahoma. So in the long term, like my goal for this, people ask me all the time, like, what do I want? And I want the films being made in Prairie Surf ultimately to be films in series written and created by Oklahomans, made by Oklahomans, directed by Oklahomans, and crews that are made up purely of Oklahoma workforce. So when I get script ideas, what I do is I'm always willing to read an idea or hear an idea. I have one of our interns or someone that works with us read the script as well. We try to give advice as best we can, and keep people inspired to continue writing. That's kind of what we can do now, with the idea that trust me, there are plenty of Oklahoma ideas that I'm very, very excited about writing, and some of those are ideas that other people have.
And there have already been some projects that have come to Prairie Surf. We'll get to that when we return. Our guest is Matt Payne. He's talking about his company, Prairie Surf Media. We'll be right back.
The Vet Hero office at the University of Central Oklahoma, it is a one-stop shop for veterans when they're trying to get their education.
I call it my encore job. I get to take care of veterans. We help them transition. I was that guy that transitioned after 24 years, and in the end, GI Bill is a benefit that those soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine earned. It was the thing that made us the greatest country in the world coming out of World War II, and it will continue to do the same thing for this future generation of service members.
OU Law has a history and heritage that are unparalleled. At the University of Oklahoma College of Law, we empower our students to pursue the career of their dreams. We have the highest U.S. News ranking ever achieved by an Oklahoma law school. We are the first law school in the country to launch a college-wide digital initiative. And this year, our competition teams ranked number 2 in the nation. OU Law, generations of excellence, limitless possibilities.
We're back on The Verdict. Mick, Cornett, and Kent Meyers visiting with Matt Payne about his movie production studios.
Prairie Surf Media. Matt, talk a little bit about projects that you have worked on or are working on now, to the extent you can. I'm not asking for any confidential information.
Interesting when, so Oklahoma, we've been in the movie business for a long time. And, people point back to Rain Man and they point back to Twister as sort of some of the more iconic Oklahoma movies. But in the past, particularly in the past year and a half, we've had a lot of films going on here. Matt Damon filmed the movie Stillwater here, which was a really exciting thing. We've got the Killers of the Flower Moon happening in Osage County, which is changing the foundation of Osage County with Martin Scorsese. It's a $200 million film. There were 2 films that were made by a company called Kingdom Story and Lionsgate here in Oklahoma. One called Unbreakable Boy, and the other was the Kurt Warner story, so about quarterback Kurt Warner. And we had the good fortune of hosting the Kurt Warner story starring Zach Levi, and Anna Paquin was, they did a lot of their production work. So they filmed some, but they started in our studio, and they moved in the day we got the keys. So the day that we signed our deal with Oklahoma City, they moved in basically the next day. So they came in, they were great partners. Zach Levi, who is in the movie Shazam coming up, was amazingly supportive about Oklahoma film, and they were a great first tenant for us. There was, we made some great relationships, got to meet some incredible Oklahoma-based crew members, and then they left. And after that, it's been nothing but, conversion and construction for us and lobbying. So right now, if you think about the old convention center, and I'm sure a lot of you guys listening and watching have been there, the arena that we have is the way that you have to think about it is pretend like the seats don't exist. What you have is a 32,000 square foot floor with 65-foot ceilings. So as I was on the phone with an executive from Disney just a little while ago, that kind of soundstage is big enough for like a Pirates of the Caribbean type film. So that space is massive, and it lends itself to really, really large projects. The old exhibit halls are smaller, and what they lend themselves to is more the sort of procedural style television shows, the cop shows, hospital shows, kind of streaming shows where you see that same set over and over and over again, episode after episode. So what we've had to do is we've had to do some conversion on the arena and a considerable amount of conversion and cleanup on the exhibit halls. And we have 1 ready to go and 2 almost finished, and the arena is just about ready as well. So now what we're doing is we're going through our Rolodex, and Rachel and I are leaning back on 15 years of relationships, calling people saying, hey, you should come to Oklahoma. And we've spent, in the last month and a half, we've been courting executives. So we had an executive from Stars, and we had an executive from a company called Annapurna Films, and we had an executive from Warner Brothers and a couple of other places. And they've come to Oklahoma, and we've shown them the facility. We've also shown them the state, and we've shown them our city, and we've introduced them to Mayor Holt, and we introduced him to Senator Roger Thompson, because we want these Hollywood people to know what Oklahoma is all about. Like these are our leaders. These are the people that have laid the foundation for us to do this here. And what we always talk about, it's amazing to watch these executives, because they get here and they're curious about Oklahoma, and they like the idea, and they like the passion behind what we're doing. And then they get here and they walk in the facility and they go, this is incredible. Like this is like Disney. This is like Warner Brothers or Universal. And then they go in the arena and they're like, oh, I thought this was going to be like something we could use for basketball, but you can see worlds being built in this place. And then we take them out in the community, and they always talk about how kind everybody is. But what they also comment on is the spirit of Oklahoma and what we've done, what you were able to do, Mayor Cornett, with the Thunder, and what's happened with the Boathouse District, and everything that's happened with MAPS. And people are holistically fall in love with Oklahoma. And so our goal is to continue to court these people and share not only our story and passion for film, but also the Oklahoma story, because we build things here. That's the spirit of this. And what we hope and what we're looking for is not just any film to come in here. What we want is we want the right partner. Obviously, we want to do business, and we'll take what we can get. But ideally, we want films that are pro Oklahoma, that are aligned with who we are as people, and we want productions that create a lot of jobs. I mean, that's the thing. Is romantic as the entertainment industry is, this is about job creation. You know, the film industry employs thousands of people, and the economic impact is immense. And so we want to bring that to Oklahoma. We talk about Osage County. You know, I heard a story of a woman who owned an antique store in Oklahoma City, or an antique stand, and she said that someone from Killers of the Flower Moon came all the way down from Pawhuska and spent $7,000 in Oklahoma City. So that's the kind of impact that it can have, and those are the kind of projects we're bringing. So we're being careful and thorough about how we work our way through telling our story through Hollywood. The last thing that I'll mention, which was a huge win for us, is Deadline Hollywood is the industry trade. It's the Wall Street Journal equivalent for Hollywood. And we reached out to a reporter and told her what we were doing here in Oklahoma, about the incentive that passed. But we told her about Prairie Surf and our leadership team. And normally these reporters kind of, they just kind of write what you give. And we got a call back that she wanted even more information. And that story about Oklahoma and the incentive in Prairie Surf got picked up by the wires and was on every news source in the world. It was on Yahoo News, and it was on IMDb News, and there were news. It was in Rome and Europe, and everyone in the world's talking about the film industry in Oklahoma right now.
You mentioned, Matt, that the legislature increased the incentive from $8 million to $30 million this last session, I guess. Yep. It was. Is that adequate? I mean, I realize there may not be any top limit, but what would be a nice number for you to feel comfortable with?
Well, we are very comfortable and very grateful for $30 million. You know, for us, obviously the no cap would be the best. You know, when we talk about the success of this business, you know, particularly as we interview people to come here and work for us, the pushback that we get is, well, that money's going to be, you know, one big film will come and take that entire 30 million, and then what do we do? You know, so obviously we would love more, and we believe that we can bring enough business here to use every dollar that's available. That said, what we have is more than sufficient to support the industry we're trying to attract. So obviously our goal is to ensure that there's a good ROI for the state, and that the experience is good, and that we're employing Oklahomans, we're giving people a good path into the workforce, and we'll raise it as the projects increase in size and scope.
You've been listening to Matt Payne of Prairie Surf Media talking about not just an idea, but a new concept that has kind of changed downtown Oklahoma City's old convention center into a movie studio. And they've already had great success in attracting film projects, and as you heard him mention, out constantly recruiting for more work. And Matt, we're running out of time, but I did want to mention that you've done, in creating the legislation, there's a lot in there for rural Oklahoma as well, so you're to be commended for that. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Kent and I'll have a final word.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
It used to be okay in hospitals, It used to be okay in movie theaters. It was okay in classrooms, restaurants, and airplanes. But thanks to a greater understanding of the dangers, that's not okay anymore. So now that we know secondhand smoke causes lifelong health problems, why is it still okay to smoke with children in the car? Bottom line, it's not okay. Let's get serious about protecting kids. Join the fight at stopswithme.com.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
We have children coming from a different lifestyle, different mindset. You have to open your arms and really do what you have to do to have that child become a part of your family. And if it's more patience, that's what you do. Kids got to know they can trust you. And that's what we try to do with these kids.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
You know, you just get the feeling that Matt Payne's going to be successful if
Yeah,
he takes on.
yeah, you really do. He exudes energy, and he's obviously competent, and he's surrounded himself with good people. I just think that's portends great things.
Yeah, he knows how to get people to work together in a common cause, and at the end of the day, he's trying to create jobs and make Oklahoma better. And so there's a lot of people that'll get on board an idea like that. Some website information. You can get more information about what Matt and his crew are doing at prairiesurf.com. That's prairiesurf.com. And then we have a website, theverdict.tv. Log on and tell us about a show you'd like to see in the future. That's going to do it for this week's show. We'll see you next week right here on The Verdict.